They drove on streets paved with kindness. Lucy was Blueport's Meals on Wheels, Yogi Maggio said, running Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and of course Sunday. The sisters cooked the food. Their custodian loaded it and drove her around too. Other days, Lucy would help pick up and drop off kids from school or daycare when their parents couldn't. She was there in a pinch when elderly needed transportation to doctors, the hospital, or church. Why, just last week, she took Mrs. Pagano to the ER when she had a seizure. While the rotund restaurateur recounted racy yarns, Polly Amare teeter-tottered on the edge of his green, white, and red chair. Volcanic intestines, overloaded with gaseous tomato sauce, were ready to erupt garlicky magma. Lungs, dammed with tar and tobacco juices, struggled for relief. He groaned and moaned, tilting his Gorgon's head of dark purple hair to one side. Then, like a giant human meatball, he rolled away from the table, smacking the tri-colored tile floor with a muffled splat. Gerard and Primo Amare, his older brothers, didn't pay any attention to Polly's demise. He'd been such a pain in their rumps the entire day, haggling over Lucy's ownership, cursing and deriding the Roman Catholic nuns. Because of him, they were at Madre Piccola's, Yogi's d'Italia restaurant, arguing about Lucy's final disposition. Having buried their father yesterday, the '56 Chevy sedan was the only valuable part of Gino Amare's otherwise destitute estate, and he hadn't willed it to his 3 sons. Instead, they were captivated by Yogi's stories about Lucy, ministering to the poor, sick, and aged. He laced his tales with frequent mentions of God, St. Christopher, the church, the nuns, their mom, and miracle of miracles, Gino Amare. While the brothers had been raised Roman Catholic, each had distanced themselves from its practice and their old man. They only attended Mass on holidays and hadn't visited their dad since their mom passed away a decade ago. Primo was starting his 3rd marriage. Polly was overextended, financially and physically. Gerard buried himself long ago in his legal career, but he'd been the closest of the 3 to his mother and Lucy. Gerard wondered whether Yogi was stretching the truth like the linguine they'd been swirling on their forks. He knew his father only attended church for special events like first communions and weddings, or depositing his wife and the boys on regular Sundays. He remembered his old man as someone who worked 12 hours a day in his greenhouses and vegetable garden. On weekends, he learned his demeanor depended on his luck at the poker table. Gerard never dreamed of his dad investing his gambling winnings into restoring the dilapidated auto and then letting it be used for benevolence. His thoughts were interrupted when he heard Polly belching out vomit. Gerard looked down and saw his brother's head tilted to one side, eyes shut. Look at his face. Looks like he's in pain. He wasn't sure whether it was blood or tomato sauce oozing from Polly's mouth. "We gotta call an ambulance," Yogi said. Given Polly's girth, he noted a fire truck might also be required. Primo grabbed his cell phone and punched 911. "Our brother, Polly Amare, he may have had a heart attack. We're at Madre Piccola's. Bring an ambulance, a fire truck, and a couple of police cruisers for good measure." "They should be here in 30 minutes, Yogi said. The beach traffic to the coastal town was heavy this 4th of July weekend. "You can't be serious. That's our baby brother." Primo's eyes watered. He and his brothers had inherited their mother Lucia's crying gene. Gino never shed a tear. "Crying isn't helping. Let's get him on his back." Gerard strained to roll 300 pounds of flesh and blood over on his own. He felt a burning pain in his groin. 1, 2, 3, Yogi counted. 6 hands and arms were placed underneath Polly with precise struggling. He was flopped over. "Is he breathing?" Primo asked. Gerard put his ear near Polly's lips. "Yeah, barely," he answered. He'd begun to tear up too. Couldn't argue with heredity. "He's holding his chest." Primo was a dentist, so he was the most qualified individual present to render a medical evaluation. "We need to get him to the ER faster than an hour round trip." Before becoming a defense attorney, Gerard had been an ambulance chaser. He could still calculate liabilities, medical probabilities of survival, and dollar signs in his sleep. His words were hot off his Parmesan cheese breath when Lucy pulled herself into the restaurant's parking lot. Her horn was tooting. "I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy," in keeping with the holiday. Her 265 cubic inch power-trained 4.3-liter V8 was humming like she'd just been driven off the showroom floor. Her green hood and chrome grille seemed to smile and beckon them to board her. Behind her polished steering wheel, no driver was visible, but Lucia's plastic St. Christopher statue was still glued to her dash. Primo and Gerard stared at Lucy, then looked at each other and grinned, silently agreeing to take immediate advantage of the opportunity. Polly was half dragged, half pushed, half dropped, and half rolled out of Madre Piccola's. Primo and Gerard opened Lucy's rear door and, with Yogi's help, shoved Polly into the back seat face first. "I think if we put him in the trunk, the front wheels would have lifted off the ground," Gerard said. "The medics are going to have a time getting him out," Primo said. Polly was wedged tight in the back seat, butt kissed up against a bursting back door window. "It wasn't the food. Our new cook just got off the boat from Palermo," Yogi said. "The lasagna was crazy good. We'll eat here again, Yogi," Primo replied. "Half price any time you boys come back." "Sorry about the mess he created," Primo alluded to Polly's upchuck. "That's why I put in tile, easy to clean," the owner smiled. "I love the Italian decor," Primo referred to the red, white, and green colors throughout the establishment. "You two can jibber-jabber all day long, but Lucy and I aren't waiting around." Gerard jumped behind the wheel. "Call Polly's wife," Gerard shouted from his window. "Let Mick know, too." "First, I'm finishing my lasagna before it gets cold," Primo shouted back. "Don't want him to worry without cause." They didn't hear his final words. Yogi had stopped conversing with Primo, hopping in beside Gerard, prepared to give directions. Lucy knew the route, however. She'd always known the way. Gerard hung onto the wheel as it turned itself, and the car accelerated down the highway. Lucy was in charge. Passing slower-moving vehicles, changing lanes 9 miles above posted speeds, and hitting only green traffic signals, but not hitting any police cars, Lucy came to a stop in front of the nearest emergency room in 10 minutes flat. Gerard never braked, though his right foot itched at times to step on the pedal. However, Polly vomited again on the car's floor. Lucy had lost her new car aroma. 6 medical staff members rushed out of the building. They took hold of his ankles, dragged him out of the back seat, and hoisted the Italian fire plug into a groaning gurney. One of the team counted 1, 2, 3 to get the others geared to push. Once the medical group got it started and then down the ramp, they allowed a body in motion to stay in motion as he crashed through the double doors and headed toward the ER. "Got lucky, huh, Yogi?" Gerard asked, stepping out of the vehicle and wrinkling his nose. "Luck was nothing. A miracle, Gerard, a miracle," Yogi said, shaking his head in disbelief. A strong Roman Catholic, Yogi attended morning mass daily and made his Saturday confession and Sunday communion. He believed in divine intervention. "Lucy, a miracle? Come on, Yogi. There's got to be some rational explanation behind what just happened." A defense lawyer for the past 15 years, Gerard hadn't witnessed any of his clients finding Jesus or being born again into sainthood. Most were guilty, whether he'd won their release on a technicality or not. He believed in human intervention. "You Catholic, right? You believe Jesus rose from the dead, right? Then you got to know there's miracles." The past 24 hours had uncovered secrets about his father, his mother, and the 1956 Chevrolet that had shaken Gerard's cynical outlook on life. He hadn't had time to reflect on what could or couldn't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Maybe that goofy-haired custodian came to pick up pizzas for the convent. Maybe he ran into the restroom and we didn't see him, and I helped steer her a little. "You know better. I watched you. You're lying to yourself, me, and God. You had nothing to do with getting us here." "But," Gerard countered, "she was driven by an angel. God's invisible hand was on the wheel. That's what I'm telling your brother and the whole town. They'll believe me." Gerard was still unconvinced. "Let's take a cab back to your restaurant, get our rental car, pick up Primo, and come back to the hospital. We can leave Lucy here with her windows down. Nobody's going to steal her after this puke. Don't need to drive her now, stinking as bad as she does in this heat. God will have her cleaned up and smelling beautiful again when we return," Yogi said. "God is good all the time." "Sure, sure," Gerard said, frowning at the Christian's divine optimism.